BBC Radio.
6 Music.
You are now entering a parallel universe. And wipe your feet on the way in.
Marc Riley, BBC 6 Music.
Either that Rob Hughes is on the other end of a Zoom.
Oh, yeah, indeed I am. How is you?
I'm all right, thanks, pal. Are you okay?
Yeah, great. I presume Dutch Uncles were brilliant. I shall be listening again later.
Of course we were, yeah, fabulous.
Great, okay, so we're looking at the NME here, 12th of April 1986, Big Audio Dynamite. I'll play that for David in Stockport. Also, thanks to Sawsick Steve for this edition of the NME, because he very kindly sent us a big stack of stuff, especially from the 80s.
He did, thank you.
Yeah. Big Audio Dynamite currently riding high with new single E=MC². Take their live show on the road next week. Special guests on all dates are the Chiefs of Relief and 15-year-old human beatbox Siffo, with New York's The Beastie Boys acting as MCs. I mean, that's some scoop, isn't it? This is a good few months before the Beasties really appeared on anybody's radar over here, and they're out introducing Bad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw that tour at the International in Manchester, unless anybody can tell me differently.
Well, it runs through the confirmed dates here, starting out at the State in Liverpool, then they were playing the Hacienda in Manchester.
No, I didn't see that. Right, okay.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I've got to say, I know we mentioned this before, but Big Audio Dynamite, real trailblazers as returned as regards using sampling, weren't they? Because obviously that is homage to Nick Rogue, that tune. Loads of samples from Performance in there. And then throughout the album as well, loads of sort of liberally sprinkled samples from Clint Eastwood's spaghetti western films, weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, I like a bit of a cavort.
That's right. Loads of that going on. Also, the news, Echo and the Bunnymen have reverted to their original three-piece lineup following the departure of drummer Pete De Freitas. The official confirmation came after weeks of speculation that De Freitas had left the group to pursue his own musical ideas. He'd been with the Bunnymen for 6 years. He now says he's a sex god. This is thought to be a reference to his new group rather than a description of his physical prowess. Brilliant drummer, De Freitas, wasn't he? Frankie Goes to Hollywood planned their return in May with the release of their second album. Further reports in the national press that the group have been on the verge of splitting up for some months is met by this statement from ZTT. To say that the group never argue is like saying that Wordsworth never saw a daffodil. But to say they've split is nonsense. On Friday, one tabloid paper reported that the band had changed their image for a new rustic look, with Paul Rutherford wearing a country smock. But a spokesman dismissed this as ridiculous and said that Rutherford had never worn a smock in his life. I wonder if it was a light news week.
Well, it seems like it, doesn't it? And, you know, I didn't really have much of an eye on Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I mean, obviously Relax and Two Tribes were great, big, you know, bombastic pop tunes, but was the second LP well received, or was it the last thing they ever did? I don't know.
It was the last day at Liverpool, wasn't it? Yeah, it was pretty badly received, I think.
Right.
Probably on a hide into nothing after the Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Also in the news, some tea leaf has nicked some important belongings from Mark Almond. His bag was stolen from outside Battersea Dogs Home, and among the items taken were a phone book, diary, a Walkman, and most importantly, the lyrics for his next LP. Mark's desperate to get the lyrics back. He's offering a £200 reward for their return. No questions asked.
I mean, you know, stealing off people is low, isn't it? But stealing off somebody who's gone to Battersea Dogs Home to help a poor dog out, that's even lower than low. I'm not having that.
No, I'm not either. How low can you go? Thrills on page 4 takes a look at Stockholm Monsters, Factory's forgotten band. It says, people don't buy our records, they steal them, says Tony France, lead singer of the band, the Factory Funsters, who last year delivered the unforgettably titled single, How Corrupt Is Rough Trade. The 5-year conglomerate of Tony, brother bass player Carl, drummer Shanhira, and John Rhodes on keyboards has consistently occupied a twilight area in the Factory scheme of things. We were there, says Tony, but our attitude was always a lot more punky, and we'd rather play small gigs than big ones. Their back catalogue provides only a frustrating trickle of recorded matter. This situation is due to change this year with the release of a new album and a single on Factory, plus a compilation. Don't know a great deal about Stockholm Monsters, to be honest.
I saw them, but I don't know too much about them. I wish I could help you out there, Bobby.
All right. Miracle Legion, page 10. I've got to say, some of the nicest guys you could possibly meet. You had them in session, probably going back longer than I think now, maybe 6-7 years ago.
It's got to be that, hasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, they were fantastic. Mark McCahey, who is still enjoying a great solo career, but they were just like such lovely fellas. At this point, 1986, they just produced a 6-track mini LP under their own steam. Now they want to go a bit bigger and get some outside help. So it was about a year after this that Rough Trade signed them. But at the minute, they're just kind of scrabbling around looking for anything really. And they talk about the early days, which is probably not so far away. They talk about the first solo tour. They went from Connecticut across to Ohio, down to the Carolinas to play any bar bar or church hall that would take them. Said it was a complete disaster. Mark says, we actually played one gig where there was no one there. Even the sound man left. But we really rocked out. There's nobody else in the club except from us. So we practiced, and I thought we played great that night. The following night, they had something booked. They turned up at the house. It said, and we get to the place. It's a house covered in graffiti, windows smashed out. And this is the club. This old guy, 35 or 40. Old?
What?
Comes to the door and says, what the hell are you doing? We said, we've come to play. We sent you a contract, remember? And he says, I must have messed up there. And when we got on stage, he was actually on the door of his own club and he left. So they played 2 nights on the trot to nobody. How dispiriting.
Well, I mean, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's the cliche, isn't it?
Well, I was going to say, it's probably, not an uncommon experience for a lot of bands, that.
Well, I've never been there, mate. The worst audience we ever had was 12 people, I think. And that was I think it was roughly that in Santa Fe and also at Leeds Polytechnic.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, did you ever play to anybody like a bloke with his dog there, that proverbial story?
I think about 12 people was the smallest. Oh, there was a dog in Santa Fe. It was a massive hall, like a big town hall. Probably would have held about 1,000 people, and there was about 12 people in there, but there was a little dog running around as well.
Oh, that's sweet, isn't it? Anyway, the album charts, Go-Betweens are in there.
Okay, Spring Rain.
Yeah.
Just like spring rain, falling just like shining down so hard, falling at my vein just like spring rain, coming down like falling here so smooth, falling in that groove just like spring rain.
Such a great tune that is, the Go-Betweens and Spring Rain. Lest we forget, of course, Robert Forster came and did a great session with his son Louis around about a month ago, so hopefully it will still be on BBC Sounds. I'm Mark Riley, and that, by the look of it, is Bob Hughes.
Indeed it is, and we're looking at the NME here, 12th of April 1986. Just going to the films. Nigel Floyd reviews Fright Night, starring Chris Sarandon, William Ragsdale and Roddy McDowell. A vampire movie with its tongue planted slyly behind its fangs. Fright Night treats the conventions with due respect, updating the scenario with scary special effects and a somewhat confused sexual subtext. It's very neatly done, with some wickedly funny moments and a few genuinely frightening ones. I love Fright Night. It's just one of those kind of great 80s films that they don't, well, obviously they don't make anymore because it's not the 80s, I get that, but they
It's a
don't
good
make that
point.
kind of film.
Yeah, no, and Nightmare on Elm Street, you'd have to say the same, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and also mention that because the vampires plays Chris Sarandon plays the vampire called Jerry Dandridge, and Jane, my missus, is really quite has the hots for him, so it just makes me feel a little insecure, to be honest, mate, but
right.
we watch it quite a lot, that
I'll
film,
tell you
anyway.
what, mate, if you weren't in Yorkshire all that way away, I'd put my arm around you, but as it stands, you ran away, so I can't.
I did run away. The Nightingales, interviewed by Neil Taylor, 4 floors up in a disused NME office, and Nightingale sings. The thing about this interview, stresses Rob Lloyd immediately, is that I don't want to come over as a person blowing his own trumpet. Modesty is the key to this man, and ironically, it's probably modesty that's held his group back. On their night, the Nightingales are unquestionably the greatest band in the world, but they perform for love, not money, for fun, not fame, and their highest accolade is that they are the least pushy band in the history of rock.
It's funny this, right? So it's just the way the stars align sometimes, but we played Lloyd Bean with Rob in the band earlier on, Take a Giant Step, the Monkeys tune, and then I played Commercial Suicide Man, the session version by Vic Goddard, which is normally a duet with Robert Lloyd, so he's had 2 mentions already, and here you are again, mate. Can't get away from him.
It's a hat-trick.
Yeah, he's a star, that man. Love him.
He is, no doubt about it. I suppose in the past, explains Rob, I've made a lot of mistakes by not being forward enough. Our current material is more accessible. We're going to put it out with more aggression. And this year, I believe, the Nightingales will become more popular. So NME notes that the release of the In the Good Old Country Way, the latest and greatest offering, a blend of country, folk, rock and R&B. Rob on vocals, new lineup, crucially featuring Maria Smith on violins. Rob says the fiddle makes a tremendous amount of difference. I listen to a lot of country music and I like the sound of the violin. I wanted to get a fresh sound into the group because I was fed up with guitars. Well, we often talk about, the start of the Americana movement, don't we? And the Mekons and how important they were in the 80s. But Nightingales don't really get much of a mention.
No, but he was doing his bit for sure.
He was. And just a reminder, if you've not seen King Rocco, what a great documentary that is.
It's a whopper.
Cocteau Twins, I think.
Yeah, this is Feet Like Fins, which I've got actually. Cocteau Twins, Feet Like Fins, Mark Riley, Bob Hughes.
Yeah, NME, 12th of April 1986. There's an interview with the Cocteaus and the centre pages here. A rare one as well, because obviously they were very sort of interview shy, weren't they? They basically didn't like that whole process. Robin says at one point, he says, at one stage last year, we were, it says here, at one stage last year, there were even whispered suggestions that the group were about to work with Brian Eno, rumours that may still acquire some substance. Robin says, when the Eno thing was first mentioned, we were told it was to be some kind of collaboration, but when we met him, we got the impression he wanted to transform us into something else. The Cocteau Twins, produced by Brian Eno, which wasn't what we wanted at all. And when he listened to the stuff we'd done, he decided there was very little he could do to change or improve it. The record company were disappointed, he says. Goes on to say, a little while later, we got a letter from him afterwards saying if we ever needed a synthesizer player, he'd love to join the band. What a great thing that
right,
is.
Okay.
Gigs this week, April 1986, got Ramones at Hammersmith Palais, Neil Young at Edinburgh Playhouse, the Three Johns at Strathclyde University, the Go-Betweens at Manchester International. I was there.
Right.
Miracle Legion at the Cricketers, Kennington Oval. You've got the Waterboys at Salford University, Giant Sand at the Mean Fiddler in Harlesden, Half Man, Half Biscuit, supported by the Wedding Present at WAH 17, the rock venue within the Walthamstow Town Hall complex. Vic Goddard at London's New Merlin's Cave, together with his new band, it says, showcasing material from his new LP Trouble. You've got Screaming Lord Sutch at Fulham Greyhound, Cardiacs at Fulham Greyhound, the Membranes and BMX Bandits at Rumours in Edinburgh.
Right.
Not a bad week. Live reviews, got George Jones at Wembley Arena Country Festival by Sean O'Hagan. So they've come in their thousands to pay homage to him. George Jones, the survivor, country's most enduring living legend. Like no one else since Hank Williams, George Jones tells you all you need to know about country living, its values, its black and white morality, its grey world of infidelity and bitter regret. For this audience tonight, George Jones is country music. He says he begins with They Call Me No-Show Jones, acknowledging the fact his reputation has gone before him in more ways than one. But it's the opening bars of The Race Is On that brings them to their feet, hollering and whooping it up. He says, it's starting to feel good up here. Hell, we might even keep playing till 3 or 4 in the morning. But after a slow ballad and a few slow silent minutes, George is back muttering something about sound checks and bad monitors.
Right.
George Jones stays on stage for 35 minutes. And around me, the cowboys and cowgirls are filing out of their £18.50 seats, uncomplaining and seemingly unconcerned about being shortchanged by their hero. Surely
It seems like the kind of equivalent of, got to see Johnny Thunders or whatever, or Keith Richards. You're like, oh yeah, you don't really know what you're going to get. But I do remember it was George Jones, wasn't it, who that Neil Young said that when David Geffen said to him about that country album, I don't want you to do any more country. He said, if you try and tell me what to do, the next album will sound like George Jones. So I think he does personify country music, doesn't he, in some way?
He does in more ways than one. On the same bill as well, Johnny Cash Show, which sound like the inverse, really, by Fred Deller. Not so much a show, he says, more a cavalcade of country music history. Cash and June Carter parade it all before your ears. The Carter family are reenacted, with June bringing in her sisters Helen and Anita, plus daughter Carleen, to harmonise on Foggy Mountain Top. And also John resurrects the sound of Sun, and he's still got the original Tennessee 3 drummer W.S. Holland around to supply the offbeat. So just a wonderful night. This is still a couple of years, isn't it, before your tribute album, Till Things Are Brighter.
Yeah, and I saw him at the Royal Albert Hall, and he brought out all of his family, as he often did, but also Nick Lowe and Elvis Costello. That was some night. That was.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. Okay, so we're going to we're going to What's It now, aren't we? I forgot what we're playing.
Run DMC. It's
That's
tricky.
it, Run DMC.
Yeah, okay, thanks to everybody involved in the programme. Gideon Coat is next, and we'll see you on Monday. Ta-ta.
Prepare to exit the parallel universe.
Mark Riley, BBC 6 Music.
And shut the door on your way out.